Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. I am Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison. Mike Wolfgang will be with us here in a little bit. So before he gets into it, we're going to run down the YSN power rankings that came out last night on YSNLive.com and also their social media pages. So let's go ahead and jump right into it here on this Tuesday as we had another crazy week of baseball. We got quite a few bit more in. I heard you guys talking yesterday early on in the show just how many cancelizations there have been this year. But I do want to put this out there. At Bob Scene Park, to this point in the season, they have actually played more games than they did last year at the same point. It's about 10 more that they've been able to get in because they've been loading up on Saturdays. They've been playing 3 games every weekend on the Saturdays, and sometimes we'll get some in on Sunday too. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thought it was interesting to see, even with all the cancelizations we've had so far, it's still not as bad as we've had in the past, at least.
It's going to happen. It's just going to happen.
But the crazy thing is, we're coming up here. There's 2-3 weeks left in the season for some of these teams, depending on divisions. And we have teams that have only
played like 7 games. Brookfield's 3 and 5.
I go put in my power rankings and submit them to YSN. I'm going through every conference that we're a part of here at YSN. I'm looking at everybody's schedules, and I got teams that have played 3, 4, 5, 6 games, and it's like, then you got at the same time, I got to compare those teams to teams that have played 15 games already, and it's getting kind of crazy sometimes when you just see, wow, this person has put in a full season, this person has a quarter of the season, and it's not either one of theirs fault that this is happening. It's crazy to see so far.
Brookfield is 3 and 5 right now. They've only played 8 games.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
8 to 10 games seems to be kind of about the average that most teams are getting to, but I have seen some that, like, they're way ahead in this department of being able to play games, and I think it's going to catch up to some of these teams' playoff time. That they're just not going to. They're not going to have a lineup or a roster solidified enough. They're going to be a good team, and they're going to get knocked out so early because they didn't get a chance to put these lineups together, get everybody comfortable playing. And I think it's going to hurt a couple big teams here in the Valley. Let's go ahead and jump right into it here. The YSN Power Rankings. We'll start things off on the softball side of things. Number 1 team, it's obviously going to be Austintown Fitch. This one, to me, I don't care that they have lost twice because they did it to teams outside of the state of Ohio, and they were minimal losses. They went from winning a game 16-3 against a team from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to then losing to a team 2-0 from a team from Maryland, to then beating a team from West Virginia 22-1, then going to extra innings against a different team from West Virginia and losing that one 3-2, to then winning 6-1 against another team from Virginia. This team has put together an absolutely epic out-of-conference schedule, and they're being rewarded in my book for it. I mean, they've scored 151 runs in 15 games while only allowing 18. This is a team right now firing on all cylinders. Once they get into Division I play, though, for softball in the playoffs, it's going to be a whole different story. I like what they're doing right now with this out-of-conference schedule, and they're running through it. I'm concerned, though, if all this is going to end up taking a toll here with pretty much 2 weeks to go in the season. I mean, at the moment, at least they say on Max Preps, their last game is, what's that? May 7th. So, I mean, we're coming up here in just a little bit of where this season is going to end for Fitch. And right now, to me, they're the hottest team in the state of Ohio when you're looking at softball right now, or at least in the Valley, because I don't know anyone that's playing this level of softball. Team I voted for in my second, they sit 4th here on the power rankings. Ursuline, 9-1 right now. The one loss came to North from Eastlake. It was 16-8. It was a runaway. It was not a good one. If we look at the last 3 games, they put together some solid wins. They took down Edison, Harding, and St. Vincent St. Mary's High School. And I don't care if St. Vincent is boys or girls. They always have talent at that school. That's a huge win for Ursuline, especially considering the boys squad didn't get the win against St. Vincent. Softball was able to. I like what Ursuline has going on right now. South Range, I did have them at 3. It's the same spot that this YSN power ranking has them. They're 10-2 to start, 113 runs to just 31. They did lose a single in-conference game, and that one was a big upset by Lakeview. Talk about Lakeview playing upset runner this season. I feel like that's been their biggest role every time is, hey, let's go in there and let's steal one of these big wins from somebody else. And that seems to be just what they keep doing, and they're putting a few of them together. But now you've seen after that Lakeview loss, they came out the next day. and nearly run ruled them. They won it 9-1. Then they run ruled Stowe Monroe Falls. They got a big game coming up against Hubbard tonight if it gets in, and they're a phenomenal team. DJ Oakley obviously covered them out in Myrtle Beach. He had tons of praise for this team. He got to see them in person. So I am kind of relying on some of what I know about this team off of what DJ has talked about, especially on Power Hour that comes up next after Casual Sports Podcast. But this is a South Range team that, on paper, and from what I've heard and a little bit of what I've seen, phenomenal group of young ladies, and they're deserving this spot right now. My fourth spot is not West Branch. West Branch, I like them, but my fourth spot is the team that actually hit number 8 in the rankings this week. Hubbard Softball. Through 9 games, they've allowed just 7 runs in, and
they're pretty good.
7 on the other side. And they haven't lost since they lost the first game of the season to Poland Seminary back on March 30th. Since then, they've run through Springfield, Jefferson twice. They run ruled McKinley. They beat Gerard twice, and they beat Rootstown. This team has done everything asked of them from that point on, and I think they deserve to be rewarded for that. When you talk about power rankings, an 8-game win streak is the prime example of what a power ranking is and what it should be. You got a team that is playing phenomenal softball at this point, and they're beating everybody that steps up for them, and it hasn't even been close. In those 7 runs they've allowed on the season, 2 of them came in that first game against Poland. So in the last 8 games, they've allowed 5 runs, 1 of which came to Rootstown, 2 of which came to Bristol, and they still won that 5-2. And 1 of them came in a run rule over Jefferson, 13-2. This is a phenomenal squad right now, playing phenomenal softball. My team I had next year, my 5 spot is the same 5 spot. It's champion. They're 8-1. They're rolling right now. They did lose to Brookfield, and I actually
they did.
An eye on at this point. I think they're a solid squad over there.
They are.
They're one that I have just on the outside. They're 4-3. They did lose their last time out, though. They're right at around 500, and it's a team I would like to boost up. But every time you start giving some confidence in Brookfield, they lose it. And that seems to be a trend when it comes to Brookfield sports. You go, oh man, this team is rolling, and then they just let up a silly one. And but back over to champion. I like what they got going on. They do allow a lot of runs on the other side, and it hasn't burned them yet, but I am concerned, especially when you look back to their game on the 20th against Lakeview. They win it 9-8, and a game like that, it concerns me just a little bit. You don't want to let a team stick around too long, especially when you're trying to make this push towards the postseason to get that high ranking. You don't know how many games you're going to get in. That was the one kind of mistake from their season so far, was that big game against Lakeview. And Lakeview's a solid team. Obviously, they're up here in these rankings, but definitely a team and champion for me. I'm keeping an eye on, especially after that Brookfield loss. They played it close against Massillon Perry, won it 3-2. They're a team that I think will go ahead and roll right through Campbell Memorial tonight. But they got teams like Garfield, Crestview, Newton Falls, LeBray coming up on their schedule. And if they get into those ones, I think they could potentially drop another one in just one of those, like, what's going on, nothing's working out for us kind of days. But next team I have on here, they're a team that's actually sat outside the YSN Power Rankings this week, but it is one I think deserves a lot of credit for what they've got going on. 6 straight wins for Springfield Softball. They're 6-1 right now. They took a bad loss to start it off the season. They lost 14-0 against Hubbard. Since then, though, they've gone down and taken on Waterloo, Lowellville. They run ruled LeBray, took down Waterloo a second time, won 2 games against Mineral Ridge, and now they got one against Sebring McKinley tonight. It's not an impressive schedule at this point, but I think the fact that you put together 6 wins in a row does speak to the value of what the squad can put out there, because you have a lot of average teams here in Youngstown, teams that can and most likely will go 500 on the season. Will split games. They can win some and they can lose some. There's nothing great about them. This is a team, I think they're above average. I think this is a team that can put that winning mentality out there on the field, and they've done it against teams that they really should have beaten, and they did it. Now it's just about making that record stand up. They got some fun games coming up to send out the year. Gerard Softball, they've taken a little bit of a slip, but I still like them to this point. They're going to have LeBray, Western Reserve, and Jackson Milton, and Columbiana to finish out the year. I think Springfield, if they can continue this schedule, keep this run going, I think it's going to be a team here in the power rankings you're going to see coming into the next week or two, so long as we see a little bit more chaos. I mean, there was a lot of chaos in this last week, kind of shuffled some of these teams up. But my team I have following them in the 7th spot, West Branch. They're 9-2. They're awesome. But when I was putting this together, they just came off a 10-inning loss to Marlington. And I don't want to push that against them too much, because 10 innings is huge, and Marlington is a phenomenal softball team over there. But it was one of those things that you had a lot of teams coming in right behind them, and they were steamrolling, they were hot. And this team took that one loss, and they went, this is a chance to see what these other teams can do. Let's push them up into a spot and see if they can hold on to it. They're playing hot baseball. You had one team coming off a loss and a close one against Chardon. I like West Branch. I have no problem that I'm going to see this team back up here in the top half of my rankings next week, so long as they continue to win. They're going to have another game against Carrollton tonight that they should dominate in. They got Ursuline Matthews and Howland next week. All games that they should probably take. I mean, I think this is a very phenomenal team. I think as soon as they take on Ursuline Wednesday, we're really going to know who our 1 through 4s in this valley are between Fitch, Branch, South Range, and Ursuline, because I think those right now probably the 4 best teams, but not always the 4 hottest teams. That's how I put this together. After them, I have Howland up here. I like them. I think they're a good squad. They've put up 100 runs in 11 games so far, coming off a big win on Sunday against Nordonia in extra innings. But before that, you look at the week prior to what these last 2 weekend games where they were putting together a win streak that I believe was 6 in a row. Yeah, they won 6 in a row, and they weren't just cupcake opponents. They won 20-0 against Ravenna, 9-6 against Lakeview, destroyed Salem 14-6, ran over Geneva 16-1, run ruled Harding, and took down Jefferson area 5-0. There's a team right now in Howland that I'm very impressed with. I think they got a solid group of young ladies over there, and I think they got a good chance of making that run. After them, we're getting down to some of the shuffling around. I want to see what happens before this bottom part of my thing gets solidified. But you got a team on a 4-game win streak. When you're talking power rankings, that's a great way to look at it. And they got a plus category in the run differential despite 2 early seasons losses to Fitch, which I'm kind of discounting those off. So bye-bye to 17 of the runs they've allowed and 2 of the losses. So I'm looking at a team right now, in my opinion, that I think we can look at kind of more as a 6-2 squad. Because Fitch, there was no way anyone was touching Fitch, especially early in the season. I don't think anyone from this region is going to touch Fitch in softball. They are just a step above right now, and they have all-around great athletes. I'd be surprised if we see Fitch go down anytime soon. But Canfield,
Fitch is great.
In these last 4 games, they run ruled Solon in one game, then took it in the second game as well. Their series, it was a 1-day doubleheader against Solon, and they won that in total 21-1 between their 2 games. I think that's phenomenal. They beat Aurora 5-2, and they beat Akron L at 13-1. Canfield softball, you look at that 6-4 record right now, and I don't think you're impressed. But if you look at those 2 losses against Fitch, and you realize what Fitch is, I think you look at this program in a whole different light, and you say, hey, those were 2 early season games against a team that we have now found out to be the single best team in the Valley. And if you're looking at power rankings, no one is doing it better than Canfield softball right now. They're absolutely streaking it high. And the team I have after that in my 10th spot is Poland softball. I like them. They are 9-5 right now, 90 runs so far. I want to see a little bit more run production out of them. They seem to kind of be bouncing around, and that's why they're not higher up in my rankings. So I know there's some people that they like this team, and, it was a close game against South Range back on Wednesday, and I give them credit for pulling it close against a team like that. But it's the games other than that I haven't been blown away with. I'm not disappointed in it, though. I just think this team has can be a lot better than they are. 9-5 is a great spot to be in before this final push in the final 2 weeks of the season. I'm interested to see what they can do out of it. Teams I said I'm looking for, looking at moving forward. Brookfield is one of them. I want to see them put a streak together, though, before I give them.
Me too.
Columbiana, they're 7-4 right now. The Clippers, boys and girls, are both doing phenomenal when it comes to the diamond. And the only reason I didn't give them a push because they were putting together a pretty good run. They run ruled Southern, beat down Ware from West Virginia in extra innings. They took down Mountain Blue from Maine 17-6. And they beat another team from Tennessee 3-1. But they came back and lost to Menor last Wednesday, and then they haven't been able to play since. So there was a little part of me that was just like, all right, let's pump the brakes on them. I want to see them go up against some of our Youngstown local teams and see what they can do. And we're going to get a good chance to see what Columbiana softball can do. They got United coming up tomorrow. They got David Anderson coming up on the 28th. They got Fitch on Friday. Then they go around East Palestine next week. So I'm interested to see what they do. After them, United, the team I was just talking about, 5-1-1 right now to start the season, and they've outscored opponents 69-6. They're on the cusp for me. There wasn't an extra spot that I could use in my softball rankings this week, and I really needed one, and that's why United kind of got left out. And then David Anderson Lisbon is the other school I'm looking at right now. 4-2 at the moment. They're pulled off a big win against Catholic Central, 17-11 last time out, but they're kind of a case of they haven't played a lot. I don't know what I'm looking at quite yet. So that's how my softball power rankings fall in here. As I will go ahead and add Mike to the show. Mike, how's it going, man? Just getting out of softball, and you're still in the YSN power rankings.
I was going to add myself, but I was going to wait because I don't want to, because I can add myself.
I saw you join us. I'll just join you.
I was like, I'll just wait for him to throw me in. I didn't want to mess it up, but I just caught the tail end of that, so I didn't get your whole rankings.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the baseball side of it too here, Matt. What were you about to say there?
The Brookfield softball team, Mike and I were at the game. I was on the call when they beat Champion, and Champion really gave them everything. And Brookfield had a couple situations where they could have scored, and they didn't end up scoring. But then they broke loose during those middle innings, like the fifth. I think it was late in the game, right, Mike? Like fifth inning, they finally just got a huge hit, and that was it. But Champion is a very solid team. And they beat Brookfield last time 10-4, so Brookfield was really trying to jump back and get a solid win against them because they don't have too many games. That a lot of games have been canceled, so they really want to try and play their best when they're playing top teams like LeBray, like LeBray, like Champion. I know they took the L to Crestview too, but 7-4, it's not too bad, but hopefully they can get more games in. That's what you were saying. We were saying this yesterday, and you were just saying that a moment ago. We just got to play more games. Just got to play more for baseball too.
Small sample size for a lot of teams.
I was supposed to be on the call for Brookfield versus LeBray yesterday. I get to Eastwood Field, and I'm like, all right, they're gonna play, and the rain just starts pouring. They literally run out on the field to start. And right before Mark Randall, who was on the mound for Brookfield, threw the first pitch, the umpire's like, that's it. He called it right as he was in the windup. I'm like, well, we almost got one pitch into the game, but, that's going to do it.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Well, let's go ahead and into the boys side of things. YSN has Canfield as the number one team. I still don't. I have South Range up at number one. I've just been so impressed with what they've done playing in region teams. That's a big thing for me. I like to see a team like South Range go up against teams from the region. And I know you want to get those big games and play some of these out-of-town opponents. And obviously, Canfield has done that, and they've been phenomenal doing it. But at the same time, I don't know anything about those teams they're going up against. Yeah, they're winning them, and they're winning them big. But how am I supposed to know if Ocean Township from Oakhurst, New Jersey, am I supposed to be impressed with a 10-2 win over that? I don't know. That takes a lot more research to go into. And to do that against their last 10 opponents that have all been out of state, it's hard for me to look at Canfield and be like, they're the best team in the Valley. Because right now, Canfield's not playing in the Valley. This isn't a team that's playing local right now. Sure, they're hot, and I love seeing that from Canfield. But you have teams playing it phenomenal against our region teams, and that's kind of why I've been giving Canfield a little bit of the slip. I still love the team. I saw that Matt and you saw them a lot last year. It was a lot of fun to see them. They're a phenomenal team, and I will never discount the fact that they are a great baseball team. When we talk about power rankings for the Youngstown area, there's something about when you're not playing teams from the Youngstown area, I'm not as confident in you because I don't know what you're really doing out there against these teams from all over the country. So it's great to see them doing this and going out there and earning some national respect because they deserve it, and they deserve to be a team that is known around the state of Ohio, around their area, and in the great United States. So I love what they're doing, but part of me is not completely sold because then again, I don't know what these teams are. And when I see them going out of state and just absolutely running over opponents, 10-2, 13-1, 15-5, 12-2, I don't really know what I'm looking at for Canfield. They're playing phenomenal baseball, but I'm not 100% sold. I'm excited to see them come back to town, kind of finish out their season here against some Youngstown teams, and I want to see what this team is made of, and I want to see them take home that conference championship for them. I think that'd be a huge step for the season. But my number one team is South Range. I just like what they've done recently. They did take the slip up against Lakeview last week. Lakeview's been an awesome team, though. And they came back and earned the win back the next day. Or actually, hold on, this is the wrong team. Well, I'm looking at South Range, but I accidentally loaded up South Range Softball twice.
Oh.
It was like something about it wasn't looking right. It's okay here because South Range Baseball is 7-0 to start out the season. That's much better than what I was looking at. You got an undefeated team here in Youngstown, and I like that. So I've been giving them the push here. They come off a big win against Poland. They beat Lakeview. They beat Ursuline, and then they beat a couple out of state teams, 2 from New York, and they're putting together a solid season right now, and they got some great athletes, and I think they're an all-around great squad. I saw South Range, I think it was just the other day, and they were a good-looking team. I like what I saw out of them. And my number 2 team, and it's simply because they're in a 9-game winning streak to start the season. They're 9-0. They're winning big in most of their games. They're beating teams they should. They're run-ruling people all the time. It's still Crestview. Crestview, to me, is being majorly disrespected sitting at number 6 on these power rankings. When you look at what they've done, especially compared to Warren JFK. And I know JFK, there's a team, I'm looking at them again to potentially put back up here, and they're on a big win streak of their own. But I think we're discounting some of these teams that are in the 6 through 10 spot in these rankings because we're so focused on the top 5 teams in this power rankings when you have a lot of great teams going on right now. And I think Crestview is a team that really deserves to be up here. When you talk about power rankings, how can you do any better than undefeated? They have done everything asked for them. They have scored 88 runs, allowed just 21, and only one team has gotten within 1 run of them, and that was Heartland Christian. They have won every other game by 2 or more runs, and I love to see that right now. They are dominating every team put up in front of them, and I think they're going to continue to do so. Right now, they're the favorite to take on the M-Bank Scarlet, and they're going to run away from it if things continue at this mark. They're 7-0 in conference play, and the next team up is champion behind them, Ben LeBray, and there's only a couple teams that might be in consideration to steal it from them, but no one's playing as great as Crestview is right now. Then at 3, I do have Canfield, 11-3, and what they've been doing out of state is just phenomenal. I mean, they are garnishing some national recognition here, at least in the eastern side of the United States against some of these teams. They are spreading out the Canfield Cardinal name. I think it's great for the athletes to get their name out there. It opens up more scouts' eyes and gets them more notoriety around the region. I think it's going to be great for those Canfield athletes, and I think it really does prepare them for the travel that gets taken into playoff time, and I think it's going to open them up to just getting these last-minute games in with the reschedule here, reschedule there, or, you got no film on this team. What are you going to do? Just show up and play your best baseball, and they've been doing that, and they're winning it. They did lose Friday, though, so I was about to give them the push right back up to second. They took a little bit of a slip up. I'm going to have them at 3rd here. At 4th, I got Austintown Fitch. They did lose last Friday's game to Green from Uniontown. Before then, though, they absolutely ripped up my Cardinal Mooney Cardinals 10-0. It was not pretty to see, and they've been a phenomenal team all year. In the 5 spot, the Clippers, 8-0 to start the season, have allowed just 12 runs, and no team right now outside of the first game has been within a single run of Columbiana. They've been a phenomenal baseball team, and I continue to like to see them get pushed up here. West Branch is the team I have following them in 6th, 9-2 right now, at 117 runs. They have really been racking them up. They need to limit the amount of runs their opponents get, though, because they will just absolutely load up, and I think they let off the gas a little bit and let go of things here. Then Salem Quakers Baseball, their team I'm putting back up in here. They're 6-3, 5-game win streak, have allowed just 15 runs this season. It was going to take a while for them to get back into a rhythm after losing some of their biggest guys last year. I think it was in Layton Rhodes is who they lost. And now they've come back. They dominated Mike's Gerard on Saturday, 12-0. They're a great team. The Leopards, their team, they're slipping down. They're 9-6 for me. I kept them in here just because they've only lost once in the last few weeks. Ursuline, they're another team I have following them. They're starting to slide a little bit here. Not overly impressed, but I'm not willing to throw them out of this power rankings when you've seen what they've done. I mean, they took a loss to South Range and West Branch. Oh, no. They took losses to some really good teams so far. I'm not worried. I think Ursuline's going to bounce right back, and they're going to take home the Steel Valley Championship, at least what it looks like right now, over Cardinal Mooney. Hubbard Baseball is the final team I have in my baseball power rankings here on YSN. 10-3, they're phenomenal. I love to see it. Teams to watch out for, though, in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, you know two of them, JFK and Boardman. They're both phenomenal schools. There was no more room left in my power rankings this week, and they ended up getting a little bit of the slide out. Lakeview, they pulled off some upsets. They took a little bit of a slide, though. I want to watch out for them. And the other one I have up here is Springfield Baseball. I have both Springfield baseball and softball being looked at right now. They're 4-1. They just haven't played a lot of games, and the ones they have, they've won for the most part. Besides the one game I got to see against Cardinal Mooney, which I've been kind of calling a fluke from the Mooney bullpen. Maybe I should be calling it a fluke from the other side. I was on Springfield's bullpen because they've been rolling ever since that game. They haven't really allowed a lot of runs. They don't score a ton. That was their highest scoring game, and they still came away with a loss. But I think it's a team you got to watch out for. And then that team they have down there at the 10th spot in Mohawk, I wasn't even aware YSN was covering them, so they're definitely a team I want to put back onto the radar. Well, they're from Bessemer, PA, and I think they're the first PA team that a YSN has acquired. So they weren't on I don't think they're on the website yet. So I was going through, checking off, making sure I went on every team across the website. I don't think their school was up there yet, or I'm just made a mistake and didn't see where it was located on the website. But congrats, Mohawks. They put together a great season so far, 8-3, won their last 3 out. But then again, they're kind of playing teams I've never heard of. So that it's hard for me to go in there and be like, oh, hey, let's look at this team because I have no idea who they are. Everyone knows I'm not from Youngstown. So I'm probably one of the few people coming into this power rankings that is pretty much just looking at these teams at face value, not historical value. If you ever go to these ballparks, all you hear is people talking about, old coaches, old players, what these teams have done in the last 20 years. And I think a lot of that gets kind of pushed into these rankings and into a lot of people's thoughts. And I think that's granted. But then I go into this and I go, man, I don't know who half these teams are. Let me just go see what's happening. What are they doing? What has happened this season for me? And I think my approach is a lot different from a lot of the other people, especially DJ, who has tons of experience in the Valley. Ty Bartell and Austin Hartwig, or not Austin Hartwig, but
Anthony,
Hartwig, who just is have a lot of knowledge about teams here from doing Power Hour this whole last year, covering nothing but these teams and talking to every coach across the Valley. They've just gotten such a big knowledge of what these teams are and what they do. As DJ is saying Mohawk takes on Champion on Tuesday. That'd be awesome to see. That'll be a great game. There's 2 great games going on that day. Mooney's taking on Columbiana as well. Those will both be pretty awesome. But yeah, most of these voters, they know this region, and then you got me, just some kid from Akron over here, throwing in my opinion, just going, "Hey, this is what the city boy from out west knows." Well, let's see what I got compared to these guys. And so far, my power rankings have been completely different from what everybody else in this region is seeing, and I like the parity that I'm bringing to this. But you got those guys that know what's going on here in the Valley, kind of keeping things level while I'm throwing some wild cards out there, seeing if I can show some people some new teams out here, show some people a different angle to look at things, different perspectives.
Well, I had heard of Mohawk, but when I saw in the rankings, I was like, because I knew they were from PA.
I know Mohawk from
Ohio.
I think they're
one of the teams that YSN there's a Mohawk from Sycamore, but I don't think that's them because they're like 0-5 to start the year. So
yeah. So
well, I knew they were in PA, but I saw the rank. I was like, I don't think they have PA teams, and I was like, there must be a Mohawk in Ohio. Because I knew there was a Mohawk in PA, and
right when I saw it, I went, wait a minute.
They're a small team too, Alek, and I think that goes to what you were saying.
Teams left and right, and I think those were one of the ones that I think they got added right after Wyndham did this past basketball season.
I think
Mohawk might be the newest team. I mean, DJ would know better than I would, obviously, but things roll along. Horizon League baseball now. At the moment, Youngstown State took a big jump up this last week, and it was great to see. Finally got out of a second to last place. Milwaukee's still stuck down there. Wright State's still on top at 11-4. UIC is in second. Oakland in third. YSU in fourth. Purdue Fort Wayne unfortunately lost the series. They're down to 9-10 now. Northern Kentucky below them, with Milwaukee still suffering in last place at 4-10. UIC coming out of this last weekend, they took on both Milwaukee, Wright State. They took the 2 games against Milwaukee, lost 10-11 in 10 innings against Wright State. That would have been awesome to see. Then the second game there got canceled. After that, Milwaukee, obviously the 2 games mentioned there a moment ago against UIC. Then they took 1 game against YSU in 7 innings. Or actually, they lost 1 game in 7 innings. They took the second one, 17-4, though, against Youngstown State. So, bad loss there for the Penguins. But Northern Kentucky, they lost every game they played this last week, and they're on a 6-game slide right now. Not too happy with what they've got going on over there. Milwaukee, they were coming off a weekend where they took on – pardon me, pages are loading. Youngstown State, they lost both games there. So YSU came out of this weekend 3-1, which is great to see. And then unfortunately, Purdue-Fort Wayne got beat up in both of these games here by Oakland. So, they took a little bit of a slide here after they were getting what it seemed to be the hottest team in the Horizon League. They were really putting things together. And then Wright State on their side of things. I know I mentioned the games against UIC. They beat Northern Kentucky twice, though, so they put together a solid weekend, 2-1. And then Purdue-Fort Wayne, unfortunate to see what happened with them this last weekend because they were steamrolling it. We were loving it. They took the 2 games against Northern Kentucky, and then they lost against Oakland in both of theirs. So Horizon League still kind of shuffling out at the moment, but it's looking like it's going to be an exciting rest of the season if things are going to continue this way. And we might not know who's number 1 coming down to the final week. I think it's going to be very exciting at the moment.
I think it's going to be a hard time to even know who's number 1, like you just said, until we get to that point for a good part. But no, I mean, I talked last week how I would like to see YSU's overall record get better, but these standings go by conference record, and they're now 8-8, 500 in the conference. So they're putting themselves in the middle of the pack to, if they do what they just did this past weekend, to put themselves in get on a little run here.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the normal sports that we talked about here for the last half an hour of the show, I got to mention it. Youngstown Phantoms made the playoffs. They are in it here tonight at the Covelli Center. They lost their last game against the Capitals 3-2. Second game of the 3-game set here tonight. I'm actually going to the game. Should be a lot of fun. My building gave me free tickets for it, so it'll be cool.
All right.
But, hoping the Penguins can or not the Penguins, the Phantoms can bring home a win. The Youngstown tied the series up, force game 3.
Yep.
Hope so. I mean, they've been in the playoffs a couple times the last few years.
Alek, how many hockey games have you been to?
I don't know the answer to that. I used to go to the Cleveland Barons back in the early 2000s. I know I went to them, I think, a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3. But I haven't been to a hockey game in over a decade. So this is going to be a whole new experience, one that I haven't had in a long time.
I used to go a lot when they were the Steelhounds, Matt, for the Phantoms. Remember that?
I have only been to one Phantoms game. It was a 7th grade field trip, and I almost didn't go because I had the flu. But I'm like, no way, I want to go see hockey.
Well, I actually won tickets at my senior year prom to go to a Lake Erie Monsters game in the 2020 season, but that season got canceled because of COVID, so I never got to go.
I've been to one of those. They're not bad to go to. We got to take them to a Pens game, though, Matt.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
Pens Blue Jackets.
Unreal.
Let's go. I don't know when it's happening.
Hey, it's the last game of the year. What's by
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's good. I don't know if we can go either or Columbus or Pittsburgh.
Oh boy. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the NBA playoffs. As I predicted yesterday, if you saw on Twitter, the Nets got swept. Thank goodness they're gone. Adios. We get enough of Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons, who has 1,000 excuses on why he can't play.
Ben Simmons.
This is just, go back to when you were in high school. There's always that one kid that never turned in assignments but always had a million excuses. That's Ben Simmons. This is a kid who has all the potential, won't do any of the work, it seems, and, every time, it's my back. Now they're saying mental health. It's like this guy's got a new problem every 3 months, and it's at the point. I heard an NBA reporter, I think it was, or former player, just go, if I'm playing with this guy on my team and we're going through next season, even if he's committed, I'm just wondering when he's going to quit on me because he's quit on everybody else in his career so far. And I thought that was a great point. Like, I know this guy's a great athlete and he's a phenomenal basketball player at times, but when is he going to quit? When is something going to happen? And when is he going to just go, I have an injury, I can't play now?
Well, here's my thing, and
are legitimate, and you got to give players time to heal for that. But this guy just seems to have a new excuse every time they I know. Like the team is going, he looks like he'll be first round, or he looks like he'll be ready to play sometime last week. We're going to let him sit out and play the first round. And they go, he had a day off. Now his back was hurting when he got out there on the floor. Guess he can't play. It's just like, come on. And we know these doctors in the NBA are no slums. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. If we got a guy that they said he was going to be ready to play for this playoff, and then he doesn't, and then your team gets swept, I don't want to be that guy's teammate. If we're on the same team and you just quit on us like that, you didn't even try. Like we gave up James Harden to get Ben Simmons, and then Ben Simmons didn't play, and James Harden's in the next round of the playoffs.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're getting pretty close. I said Toronto was taking the last game on my Twitter, and they ended up doing it. But in my opinion, you just go, our former teammates in a position to win. The team we got really doesn't talk to anybody, and we got nothing with this guy. I mean, you look on the benches last night with the pictures and stuff from him, and you got the entire section wearing like black outfits. They're all dressed in black, supporting their team. Then you got Ben Simmons there in the flashiest, gaudiest, colorful outfit.
The glasses.
It looks so awful compared to all the black that's around him. It looked hilarious.
If you can find that picture, put it up on the screen.
This guy doesn't fit with this team, with these players, and I don't know what it is, but I wouldn't want to be Ben Simmons' team.
I love his glasses. His glasses were priceless. Oh my goodness. Oh, but
like a rainbow.
I'm looking into it here. I got one. Sweet.
You got one. All right. Yeah. Put it right up here.
Give me a minute here. It's gotta.
He looks like a rainbow.
It looks so terrible compared to like everybody else around.
It's like he rose from a garden. It's like he rose from a garden or something.
Yeah, flower garden, flower bed.
Yeah, flower
garden.
garden.
Call it.
He woke up. He went to the garden. He went to the garden of healing and tried to get healed, but he came back looking like a flower.
And couldn't play for Game 4.
Yeah. They said, yeah. There's the one with the glasses.
I did. This is the one I was talking about, at least. I mean, just like in
look
comparison
at
to everyone around him,
Dragic.
it's like, yeah.
Look at Dragic.
I just got to point out, Ben Simmons looks huge compared to the rest of those NBA players.
Right?
I know.
Right?
Well, hey, that's part of.
He doesn't ever look that big, but when he's out there, he is.
That's part of Brooklyn's problem. And to get serious about the game last night, that's part of the problem. And I think that's kind of why, they bring in a guy like Andre Drummond to do something down low, and it didn't work. You have guys that can't shoot free throws, and the guys that they have they're too small. I mean, they're all good players, but Seth Curry's too small on the perimeter. Marcus Smart, he's going to guard a guy like him. So they need guys like Patty Mills, and all these guys can shoot, but they need size. And the thing about Ben Simmons with me, and I heard Tim Like, we're talking about this on ESPN, and he's one of the ESPN guys I like with NBA basketball. He's like, what is even the point of him playing Game 4, first of all? Because they're not going to win the series. They probably weren't going to win the game anyways if he played last night, because it just goes to add with the Nets all year. They haven't had guys in. They haven't had time to gel anything at any point in the year, so it wouldn't have mattered. And, it's like he's got to spend this whole offseason showing his teammates, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to do this to try and at least earn some of that. Like, don't miss a day of offseason workouts. Get there early. Leave last. Like, he's got to do all this stuff to show that he wants to be there. Because, like you said, Alek, they gave up James Harden for him. They don't have time to sit here and wait around. When they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie, they gave up James Harden, and you got to try to earn it back for your teammates. It's going to be hard for him to do it, but at least try to do it this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big part. It's going to have to. And if anybody was looking at my Twitter yesterday, the main reason I said the Nets were going to get swept in that Game 4 last night, one, Boston came in absolutely smoking hot as probably one of the best teams, if not the single best team going into the playoffs. I'm saying, when you're looking at a power ranking, Boston's probably one that is going to be number one. They were playing the best basketball after the All-Star break, and that showed going into the playoffs, and they took Game 1 here. Number 2 was they were going up against a team that clearly dysfunctional, and they struggled all season to get guys on the floor. Everything about this team was screaming, we can't win a series because we can hardly put together a winning season. And they didn't. And, you get down to this point of the year and you're like, yeah, they have some good players to win a game, but they don't have a team to win a series.
And this is why I don't pay attention to these stupid Vegas championship odds, because all year, despite all this dysfunction, they still had Brooklyn top 5 best odds to win the championship. Then they have them favored to beat Boston. I mean, what showed you all year that they were one of the title favorites? What evidence did you have? And it goes, I use that same thing when I was talking about Chicago last week to you, Matt. What recency test, what do you have to show them that they were can beat Boston, like you said, Alek, since January, something like that? They had a loss to the Knicks, and I think since that game they have been the best team in the NBA since mid-January. So I don't know where that comes from.
And they proved it. Man, that first game, when they came out there and they shut everyone's mouth against Brooklyn. I mean, first or second game winning on a buzzer beater, and then from there on, they didn't really look back. I mean, phenomenal. You love the effort from Boston. They're playing the underdog that they shouldn't be. And I think they're thriving off of that mentality, despite the fact that they're a 2 seed and probably the best team in the East. I mean, give Miami some credit. My Boston at the moment, you look at them, 4-0 sweep against Brooklyn. They might be the best team in the Eastern Conference right now, and they're somehow playing the underdog. They come a 4-point win against Brooklyn last night, and you got Jason Tatum finally kind of flourishing into the star that he was supposed to be. Everyone went, this was supposed to be the next LeBron. He was kind of that first guy I think we saw right around 2015, 16, people started looking out who was going to be the replacement for LeBron. And we've gone 1,000 different guys since then. And we've gone way past Jason Tatum. And I think it might be finally time that if he makes this run and leads this team, we can finally loop back around and go, maybe they were on to something 6-7 years ago when this guy got drafted. He's finally hit that stride that we've been looking for somebody to make that next step and be that next superstar in the NBA. Because I think we're in a moment now, we have a lot of great players, a lot of phenomenal players, but outside LeBron James and, a couple guys here and there, who is the guy in the NBA? We've always known it was Jordan in the 90s. It was Bird in Magic in the 80s. You go back before that, you get more. 2000s was Kobe. The 10s was LeBron and Curry. Who's going to be that guy here in the 20s? And I don't think we have that solidified guy yet. Obviously, you got a great chance to look at a guy like Giannis and say he's going to be our guy here in the 20s, but it's still so early to tell. And I think if you see a guy like Tatum make that step here, he's got that shot to be the guy in the 20s. You're on a team in Boston that loves to spend money and love to bring in guys. And they finally got a guy in Tatum who has taken that next step and can win games. His guarding against Kevin Durant in this 4-game series was phenomenal. He was so great at a level we have never, ever in the history of Kevin Durant's career
Durant sucks.
Guard Kevin Durant that great. Kevin Durant is by far none the greatest scorer in the history of the NBA because of the fact he's tall as hell. He
can shoot over anybody.
And you can't get
those long arms.
Yeah, he's got some long arms. You can't get your hand in his face because he's miles on top of you. And Jason Tatum is a guy, I think he's 6'7", 6'8" at this point. He locked down Kevin Durant. And yeah, Kevin Durant still went off for 39 points yesterday. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because Jason Tatum went up there and put 30 on Kevin Durant. You talk about 9-point differential. If you can go and put the two best players in under a 10-point differential, then it becomes a team game. That's what it was. And Boston had a better team, and I think that's going to be something you're going to see in this next round. When they most likely will take on Milwaukee, we'll find that out tomorrow. Milwaukee's games 5 against Chicago tomorrow. You're going to find out if this Boston team is as great of a team as we think they are, or is Milwaukee going to come back out there and kick some butt like I think a lot of people are expecting them to, because everyone's been pushing aside Boston because they had a terrible start to the season. Then they, as Mike's been pushing for the last 4 months, they've been the hottest team in basketball, and they still get disrespected. And now they pull off the only sweep in round 1. And I think Jason Tatum is on a chance. He's got a chance right now, however slim it is, to be that face here in the early 20s, to go in and not only take down Kevin Durant in the first round and Kyrie, mind you, then in the second round, potentially take down the rising legend of Giannis Antetokounmpo, or even potentially Chicago if they make a huge comeback. Then after that, you got a chance at either Miami or Joel Embiid and James Harden in the Eastern Conference Finals, so long as the 76ers get through Toronto. Or, you get Miami to potentially get in that Eastern Conference Finals with Jimmy Butler. you look at a potential historic run and maybe the single greatest run ever in the Eastern Conference playoffs. I don't know any other player who can really say they had to go through a Hall of Famer in every single round, sometimes 2 or 3 on the same team. And you got a chance for Jason Tatum and this Boston Celtics team to do just that.
Every round.
This would rival the 2012 run by the Dallas Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah. Was it 2011 or 12?
Ooh,
2011. It was 2011 where they won the championship against LeBron and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, they beat LeBron and Dwayne in the championship. They beat Kobe in the playoffs. They took down the Spurs in the playoffs. It was a phenomenal run.
Yeah. Young Durant and Westbrook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think
similar.
This is a chance for Boston to put themselves back in. You hear it every year when this team was going to the Eastern Conference Finals and losing to LeBron James in these last couple of seasons when LeBron was in Cleveland. I think it was Larry Bird that came out and said, we don't put conference championships in the rafters. They don't care about division titles. They don't care about conference titles in Boston. They care about gold trophies, gold balls, the Larry O'Brien trophy. That's the banner they hang from the ceiling, and they haven't had one forever. It's been a long time.
2008.
Yeah, it's been a long time. That's a long time, Matt. 2008 is a long time ago.
I was 8 years old.
Right. Dude, that's some guy's entire career ago in the NBA. And
yeah, that's...
I think that's crazy to look at when you're talking about this.
I'm more pro.
Right
I
now,
wouldn't mind Boston.
If we're going to go ahead and point out who's the team that I think is going to win it, it's Boston. Right now, Boston is my favorite team to win the NBA Finals this year because you saw what they did in 4 games. They took close games against Brooklyn, a dysfunctional squad with 2 superstar talents, and they still beat them. And this might be the least star-studded Boston team in the last decade.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've been saying that a lot. Like, who do they have? Like, Jason Tatum's obviously, you were just talking about him.
Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. What's the other guy? Tice. I think he's Daniel Tice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Great players, but they're not superstars. But I was talking about them last week. They're just like that Spurs team.
Yeah, Alek, I wanted to bring that up.
They're just like the Spurs team.
Their front line, you got Al Horford, you have Daniel Tice, and you have Grant Williams and Robert Williams. They're beefed up down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like the Spurs that made their title runs. The Spurs didn't really have any superstars. I mean, Manu Ginobili,
Tim
Tony
Duncan,
Parker,
Matt,
Tim Duncan. Okay, Tim Duncan.
Okay,
greatest power forward ever.
Okay, a Hall of Fame coach that might go down as the greatest
exception.
of all time, the greatest power forward of all time, debatably. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, 2 Hall of Famers. Yeah, I don't know if they didn't have a star-studded team, Matt.
Ginobili's one of the best 6-man ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but listen, they're not. I mean, you don't see my point. Like,
You're gonna lose this argument,
I don't
Matt.
see your
Don't
point.
try.
They're not like like they're heck of a bunch of players. Like they're really good players, but like
Matt, I already said what they are. The 2011 Mavericks. They have their guy and everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's no discredit to the rest of the Maverick squad, but that was Dirk Nowitzki.
They were old too.
Yeah.
They had an old Jason Kidd.
Yeah. And now this team's got an old Hal Horford, an old Marcus Smart, and they might finally get probably outside of a couple of guys, one of the most well-deserved championships if they can get there. I mean, if you talk about Marcus Smart and you talk about loyalty in the NBA, this dude has been loyal to Boston through thick and thin for the last, 10 years, 8 years?
It
seems like he's
been
there for
10
a
years.
while.
2014. He's been there.
So 8 years. So, I mean, look at what this guy, he's just stuck there while everyone around him has gone away and fell off or,
He
done this and that. He stayed committed, and he knows his role, and he plays it fantastic.
I know what you're saying about Boston, and right now they're certainly the team to beat in the East, but I still think Golden State's my team right now. I do.
I like Miami.
Well, I'm glad we each have our own different opinion. Let's see who wins. So let's go
I
down
won't be mad if
tonight's
Boston
games
wins,
here,
though.
Matt. 10 minutes left in the show. Let's get our final 10 games. First game at 7 p.m. tonight. The Hawks and Heat. Miami's closing out this series tonight.
I agree.
Ain't no way this is going another game.
I agree.
No.
I called for a sweep in this one. I was almost right.
Yeah. They'll get the
I'm getting to that point. I'm getting to that point where I'm just getting sick of Trae Young. I'm just getting sick of
Well,
him.
that means he's probably going to go all for 50 points tonight and win because he feeds off being the bad guy. I love it, honestly. I think there's too many nice guys in the NBA. Too many nice guys.
He
And you
thinks
know what
he's
they say about
Allen,
nice guys,
he thinks
Matt?
he's Allen Iverson. He's got that same cockiness as
you know
Stephen
what?
Curry.
If I got a star player, I want that dude to think he's God. I want him to go out on the floor every single night and think he is the single greatest basketball player in the world.
Let me help you out.
No one can touch him. That is what I want out of my superstar.
I agree. And Matt, I'm not trying to jump sports here, but I'm just using this as a comparison. This is just my comparison. What do I keep telling you that is a problem with the Pittsburgh Penguins? They don't have a tough guy. You got to have a tough guy to win. What do you think the Celtics have with Marcus Smart? He's not a big show guy, but he's tough, and they get that mentality. I agree with you, Alek. The cockiness to a certain degree, I can deal with it. Sometimes it gets on my nerves. But if you use that and your teammates use that and you win games, that's fine.
They need a guy out there who's going to go and get tattoos on his knuckle that say bad A double squiggly letter. That's what they need out there. And Trae Young is that dude. He's going to go get ice tray on his knuckles and then shine them in front of the cameras as he's holding his next championship ring. That's the mentality he has, and that's the mentality his superstar needs to have.
Yeah.
That might be the problem with Cleveland. We got a lot of great guys, but we don't have one of those guys that's going to go out there and be that guy and think that I am that guy. This team needs me. You need that kind of mentality to win championships. I'm sorry, you do. Every championship team has had one of those guys. You can't name me one that doesn't.
But I'm just saying we don't know if the Cavs currently do have that because just because
they try to make it Andre Drummond.
Well, I'm just saying you don't just because
it didn't work.
You don't have to. Andre Drummond's not that guy, but
they try to make him that guy.
You can have a guy that's like Trae Young and just shut up and just be quiet, the quiet guy, and do on the floor like Kawhi Leonard, like guys like that, not like be showing the court. So there's levels to it. Like some guys are just like that, and it works. But that's my point. You don't know if the Cavs do have that. It could be Garland. I mean, he could just be the quiet guy and just go off on the court like Trae Young does. But
I know a team that's full of BAs, and it's called the Minnesota Timberwolves. Forcing Game 5 here against the Grizzlies, tied the series 2 apiece. I'm loving this series right now. This is basketball at its finest.
Me too. Now, is there any word on Anthony Edwards? I saw he was limping horribly coming out of that game on Saturday.
Yeah, I saw he got hurt. Something happened.
Yeah, he was hurt.
I don't know if he did bring it up, so I forgot about it.
The game on Saturday?
I think it was 4.
He returned to play in that game.
Oh, did he come back? I didn't watch the whole game. I just saw that he was
at least what I just saw. Let's see here.
I saw him limping off.
Yeah, that was Saturday.
I know. Yeah, I know it was Saturday.
I'm looking into it. You guys keep talking here, Minnesota.
Okay,
Memphis.
But Minnesota, I mean, I like what Karl Anthony Towns has been doing. I like what Patrick Beverly has been doing. D'Angelo Russell's a stud too. I mean, nothing against the Grizzlies. I don't even know who. At the beginning of this, I thought the Grizzlies were going to come in and take the sweep, and that's going to be it. I don't even know how this is going to turn out. Same thing with Pelicans Suns. Pelicans are showing up and just playing straight up basketball, and the Suns aren't doing that. Chris Paul only had 4 points.
Suns are injured though. Suns are not having Devin Booker though. Well, that's a big factor.
They're not injured. They just don't have Devin Booker, and that's. I mean, yeah, I know he's a key player, but step up, next man up. I mean, the Cavs did it.
I understand that, but it's hard to replace a guy like Devin Booker. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen. I really, who I really like watching, man. CJ McCollum is in form. He is in form. He's running down, shooting, and he's just like, I'm here.
Alek, I'm looking at injury run up for Minnesota tonight. There's nobody on their injury list. So
it looks like they're saying he came back and finished that game that he left in. So he finished Saturday's game, and then he's good to go.
Okay. All right. Good. Because I saw him limping off.
Back in Memphis, though, who takes game 1 and who takes the game 3 in Memphis? I'll say.
I'm gonna keep rolling with Minnesota.
I like Minnesota.
I'm gonna give him game 5 here.
I ain't tearing my back on the Timberwolves just yet. It ain't gonna start here. I got the T's. The T-Wolves, baby. All right, 10 p.m. game. Pelicans and the Suns. Pelicans are making some noise with that injury to Devin Booker. That's part of the reason why my confidence on this Phoenix team is kind of starting to slip, because the Pelicans are making some noise. And when you got a guy like Brandon Ingram, he is that guy. I was just talking about that guy who's going to go out and tattoo his knuckles and then shine him in front of the camera. That's Brandon Ingram. The dude's covered in tattoos, by the way. Right now, he's got 30 points per game. He's a baller. Straight up baller, and he knows it too. This dude has been passed around like Sunday's dinner. Nobody wants it because it's Wednesday and it's leftovers. It's been sitting in the fridge. Nobody wants it anymore, and he realizes that. New Orleans went down there and went, oh, when we throw anything in gumbo, let's throw Brandon Ingram in the mix, and now he's coming out here and balling out.
He was just with the Lakers, right? He just went from the Lakers to there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was his last move,
Yeah.
I still got Phoenix tonight.
Lakers are stupid. That was the whole part of LeBron making everybody leave. You
got Anthony Davis
behind that, but what?
You got Anthony Davis though.
Yeah, you did get Anthony.
I know.
I would take Brandon Ingram over Anthony Davis.
Well, now, but at that time,
not right now.
I would take him any day of the week then.
I think Brandon Ingram is holding that on his shoulders. He's holding that chip on his shoulders. Lakers, you got rid of me, and now I'm about to beat the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And on a team that is 10 games under 500. 10 games under 500. Yeah. They're about to beat a team that just won 64 games. I know they were better at the end of the season, but still, they've won 36 and 46.
I got the Pellies tonight.
I'm going Pelicans tonight, man. I got rules.
But tomorrow's games, I'll go ahead and throw my picks out there since I won't be here on tomorrow's show. I got Bucks and Warriors both finishing off the series, coming away 4-1 gentlemen sweeps. I think that's a pretty real scenario of what's going on tomorrow. But, guys, it's been another great show here for the Casual Sports Podcast. That is unfortunately all the time we have. We got nowhere near getting time for baseball in today, but I'm sure you guys will cover that tomorrow with some NHL.
We'll talk baseball tomorrow.
Power Hour coming up next on YSNLive.com. Thank you for tuning in to our rambling on here today about just about everything. But that's going to do it. I've been Alek, Matt Morrison, Mike Wolfgang, DJ Yoakley, and the crew up next for Power Hour on YSNLive.com. See you later.